Good evening. Welcome you all to another showing for Unfiltered Kings podcast. I'm your moderator this evening, Diana, and I have with me my boy Frankie, my boy Carlos, of course, the infamous life coach and amazing author on the
Oh
podcast.
my God, you kind of
My
came
God,
up. You came up.
yes,
Yeah. Started with the infamous and came up. Okay, how we gonna close that?
Okay, so this is Unfiltered Kings podcast. Tonight, we're gonna talk to you about accountability among men, the dynamics of holding each other accountable. We're also streaming on YouTube. We also are on IG. You can also find us on Facebook as well for Unfiltered Kings podcast as well, and also on Spotify. Download, share, scream, prance, yell, whatever you want to do. But please make sure you like, share, and follow us as we go along in our show. I don't know what that is, but anyway, so again, like I said, the topic to now is accountability among men, the dynamics of holding each other accountable. So how we're going to start this off is I'm going to introduce the topic, which I've already done, and then we're going to define what accountability is. And then my three lovely men here are going to share, some words of wisdom or some stories that they may have on ways that they have either dealt with it or had to, I guess, hold one of their brothers accountable. So again, accountability. What is accountability? So accountability is a critical aspect of healthy relationships and communication. Among men, this concept can manifest in various ways, influencing behaviors, decisions, and social norms. This topic explores how men hold each other accountable and the implications of these dynamics. So, the definition of accountability is it involves being responsible for one's actions and decisions and holding others to similar standards. Benefits from holding other personnel accountable is it promotes personal growth, strengthens relationships, and fosters a sense of community and belonging.
Yeah.
So I gave you the definition of it and I gave you some benefits from it. But what I want to do now is ask my lovely brothers here a few questions. So I'm gonna just shoot the hand or finger at Jay because he's amazing. And I'm pretty sure he's gonna have like the best example of what this is, right? So, Jay, what role, if any, do you think accountability plays in male friendships?
Jesus Christ! Got to get away. Got to get away the mail card right off the top.
Off the top.
So when we get together for the convention this summer, I should be able to get this back, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
yes.
So what role it plays in male friendships and male bonds? I think it can and should play a great role in helping like destroy toxic masculinity. Like I said, we often talk about this, toxic masculinity is always looked at as some perceived and labeled by women, but actually it's something that we develop on the inside due to bad teaching being passed along. And so that teaching becomes toxic, right? And so as soon as we identify that toxicity to being a male, it becomes toxic masculinity. And so I think it really will help curb that and deter that by having that accountability there. It's just unfortunate sometimes there are different parameters that I think we'll talk about tonight that we don't even see that until we get into these groups. So I'll leave it right there.
Okay.
We go, Los?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. One of the things that I understand accountability is basically paying attention to my wrongdoing, bad choices, and bad behaviors. The beautiful thing about understanding accountability is that I realized that I was no longer alone. I was not in a place where I had to make the decisions by myself, or I'd have to feel so bad and feel like I gotta hide what I've done or just cover my mistakes. Instead, I had opportunity to actually put it out there and talk about it, and in fact, maybe help some who will probably arrive there. So the biggest benefit for me was, again, realizing that, hey, I'm not by myself. I wasn't the only one that made a mistake or that did the wrongdoing or had a bad choice or bad decision or bad behavior. So that's my point on that one.
Yeah, I feel like I think I said it Tuesday, man. Accountability goes kind of can go like multiple of probably like a couple of ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's accountability of what's perceived versus accountability of owning up to one's action if something bad happens or you know a miscue or a mess up, and somebody has to take accountability, like, hey, that was my mistake, I'm gonna correct it, we're gonna keep pushing forward, you know, and I'm learning from it, that type deal. And as far as perceived accountability is like me as a father showing up to my son's game, you know, or making sure the bills are paid, or making sure it's food in the house, you know, making sure I get to work on time, stuff like that. So that's how I always viewed accountability.
Okay, so thank you all for
so sorry.
tuned in.
Right, baby.
Hey, we asked them to tune in. They done came in on down. Let me find out.
Tune in, okay?
They said, hey, forget watching it on this. I want it live.
Right.
That's a little bit too close. Tune in. Get out my sister.
No, seriously. So yeah. So thank you all for giving your outlook on accountability. So I'd like to I'd like to go a little bit more deeper into maybe what society or your background might have looked like, or what ways you may have seen accountability growing up, like in your household, you know. And don't anybody, you know, jump on this one, but whoever wants to kind of share, you know, stories of what it looked like from, you know, the childhood outlook of it, and then where you kind of see it now. I'd love to hear.
Counterclockwise, then, huh?
Before we jump in, fellas, I think it's important, like when we rehearsed on Tuesday, to say that this is a very nuanced situation. I think a lot of time when we approach this topic, we go from the definition and work back. So that's why it's hard for people to tell their story. They now have to tell their story in the revelation. But the reality is everybody don't learn accountability off the jump, right? We're trying to meet into the middle, right? And so if you're out there in the audience and you know, this is kind of clicking in, your story may not sound like one I that don't mean yours more right or wrong than ours. It just means from our perspective, how can we as men kind of get together and meet in the middle? So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. But yeah, man, I'll jump off the porch first, man. I did not have a great relationship with my father. There was a lot of physical, emotional abuse early on. So there wasn't a lot of care about emotions. Matter of fact, there was a lot of it that was torn down. And a lot of it was just justified as this is the way it was done to me. You know, kind of that archaic mindset. This is what was done to me by my father. I just kind of passed it along. And so that accountability was not there. And then when you think about the emotional things of going through it, you're trying to figure that out. So you're really not trying to, what can you be accountable to, right? You haven't been taught.
Yeah.
Everything you've been shown is wrong. And I think a lot of times we get a bad flack for this, but it's true. Just because we see it the wrong way don't mean we know the right way.
That's true.
So in my case, when it comes to that accountability, if I'm transparent with myself, even though I saw some ways that my father and I, keeping me and my father and I, through God's grace, we ended up having a great relationship.
Yeah.
But this is just the truth, right? I just want to be transparent about that. But what I realized, just because I learned it the wrong way, I still created other problems for myself because I still didn't know the right way. So I just kind of found another wrong way of doing it, if that makes sense. And so my accountability early on was more about survival, right? Just do this, and if you don't get caught, or if no too many people say it's wrong, then that was my understanding of accountability. And if it is, you quickly change it, right? Like you just kind of assimilate to what is right and not necessarily be right, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So I hear, you know, what you're saying about what it looks like from your childhood, and how you and your father's relationship wasn't, you know what I'm saying, the greatest. But I want somebody to talk about, I guess, where they teetered off, you know what I'm saying, from adulthood. Like what does accountability look like for you all now that James has given his side based off of, you know, the outlook from the child's eyes. How about, you know what I'm saying, let's look at it from the adult view where you are now. Frankie.
From where I am now, I would say I have a family now. You know what I'm saying? So it's different from a child's perspective, looking at my father and my mother, you know, and how they adulted, if that's
Yeah.
what, and how they perceived accountability as, to me now, perceiving accountability, it's like making sure, you know, like I said, I keep a roof over their head, make sure they fed. I can't get everything that they want, but you know, as it says, I get you what you need, not what you want. You know what I'm saying? Making sure my family is taken care of, well straight. You know, if they come and ask, say, hey, do you know this, or can you help me with that? Try to help them with this. And of course, it's not just me; it's my girl too. So you know, that lightens some of the load for that. But I would say a good accountability deal that I had to go through as an adult was me getting terminated from the sheriff's department. So that was like a big, you know, blow to my pockets. So it was one of those things where I felt, you know, slighted, and a whole bunch of like stuff started happening, and all in this one little time span. My father passing away, my car getting broken into, you know, it's kind of like a new regime coming in the sheriff department. You know, they always want to, when you're dealing with that type of stuff, you're always getting, you know, a new stars and bars person always want to implement some heavy-handed stuff instead of, you know, slowing the change in. All these multitude of things led to, and my pride too, so led to me getting terminated.
Right.
So now that where accountability comes in is I can't sit and mope about it and still be mad about it. I got to keep moving forward because one, bills got to get paid. I got a big family, and I can't dwell in it too long. I got to get up and keep moving. So I had to hold myself accountable. And not only that, you know, even though your kids might not say something, or they might like question or ask like, hey, what's up? You not working, or why you ain't doing this? You know, I still feel like that's holding me accountable, because even though they ain't using the word accountability,
right,
they want to know like, hey, what's wrong with dad? You know, he ain't been going to work like this, or, you know, or my girl always asks, are you sure you all right? I know it's a lot of stuff. And, you know, even with her, like, hey, you need to leave there anyway. You've been trying to leave because of the sheriff. It didn't happen how you wanted, but maybe this is a blessing. So now you can move on, you know. But as an adult, I believe accountability kind of gets, you know, harder, and you have to learn how to go roll and flow with the ebbs and tides, you know. So that's my take on accountability as an adult.
Okay, yeah. So thank you for that. So it sounds like from your experience, it was just more like a self-reflection. Like you had to hold yourself accountable based off of not only the scenario that you were in, but you know, like you said, you kind of delved into that scenario too. So you took accountability for, you know what I'm saying, what led to, you know, you having to, you know, leave the sheriff's office. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Yeah. So Carlos, I know on Tuesday we were talking about your uncle and how he may have deterred your way forward as far as accountability because you liked him. So I would love for you to, you know, share that story for everyone to hear so they can kind of understand that in certain instances, you know, when you actually like somebody, there are certain things that you are okay with allowing them to enable or for you to enable them because you actually like them.
Okay, exactly. Thank you. I wasn't trying to forget go there, but I will. But in all actuality, we need to though too, because as men, that's a big deal. But I did. We all got a favorite uncle, favorite auntie, or favorite person. But my uncle GC was one of my favorites. He played basketball. I played basketball. He ran track. I ran track. Pretty much whatever he did, I did. So I was about maybe 15. I was working in Montgomery Ward. I still remember the store, and I was liking a girl, and I was telling him about it. And in the midst of him telling about it, a Jehovah Witness walked in, young lady, and she comes through the door, and he sees her coming through the door. She don't even make it in good. He sees her come through the door. He says, "Watch this, nephew. Let me show you how it's supposed to be done." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So she comes over and she starts talking. So he didn't. I mean, he started shooting game. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, this ain't gonna work. She's Jehovah Witness. She's coming to talk to us about God. Before we left, he not only had a number, they ended up dating and talking. And I mean, it blew my mind because at that point I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's my uncle. I like him. He really wouldn't tell me something that wouldn't benefit me, I wouldn't benefit from. And so I did the same thing. I began copying the same concept, same idea, same process. I mean, there was a lot of benefits from it. In my mind, I thought at the time, until I got hurt down the line. And then when I got hurt down the line, which was years later, I realized, you know, hey, you were wrong. That wasn't right. But I okayed it because he was my favorite uncle. And I was like, accountability was hard then because I had to think about, because it made me go back and look at all the people. Well, I'm going to be honest, all the young ladies I talked to, all the ones that I made the wrong choices with, all the ones, and that was hard. That was hard. And I still revel in that sometimes now, like, man, I shouldn't have. Because it's something I feel that accountability is not something where you arrive at. It's something that ever develops that's a consistent, that you can use a consistent check, a consistent marker to say, make sure that you're on the right track. So, yeah, that was that instance that I'm not too proud of.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I do think it's important that, you know, you kind of give different variations of moments in time where accountability may have lacked or where you actually went through with it. So the next part of it is I would like to hear scenarios of where you actually did hold, you know what I'm saying, somebody accountable, well, other men accountable in certain scenarios to where that one, you weren't the enabler, you actually, you know, kind of, you know, 100% just told them like, hey, you know, gave your input, you know, so that it aligned properly and it didn't like come off as if you were okay with whatever it was they were doing.
So I'll take a stab at that, but before I do, I want to shout out Rayshawn Hyder. I
What's
see
up, Rayshawn?
Dave joined the conversation. He said we just have to be honest with ourselves, no matter how hard it may be or how much it may hurt. Pride has no place in accountability. Do not be a narcissist. Not good at all. Noelle Heaven, I think she's a first time follower. Accountability is a must. It builds good character. Yeah, thank you for following us tonight, which you're absolutely right. And then she also said accountability makes us better, 100%. And so you're right. That's kind of right on point to your question, because it's interesting as we all sitting here, you know, as guys, and I'm listening to everyone's story. Like we all have history, right? And this is why I talk about the nuance. You know, I remember when my boy Frankie was going through. I remember how Carlos has dealt with some of those after effect issues, and then the accountability piece comes just like my man Rayshawn had, but we had to develop that and recognize it, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of times it just started with it just bubbling up to where we had to be comfortable and just sit around. You know, I go with Frankie, Carlos call me up, I'll call him up, and man, we just kind of get it out first.
Right.
A lot of time we don't know what it looks like, especially as men. We're supposed to fix everything, right? We're supposed to fix it, and if we can't fix it, it's embarrassing that we bring it to the next. So we had to revamp that. You know, I was listening to Frankie where he was talking about, you know, a lot of pride, a lot of this going through. I don't understand that on my boy, but I can't speak to that to my boy, right? Like he has to unravel that. Right?
Yes.
Same thing, Carlos and I, we've had conversations where as much as we wanted to, there's a difference between does he want the answer or does he just want the space to continue this process of accountability? Because a lot of time when you see it and you need to be held accountable, don't mean the other person see it.
Right.
Matter of fact, it can be taken as, man, you come to me wrong, things of that sort. And so even with those three dynamics, man, I think the first thing was that we had to get it out within ourselves and have that trust factor. I think Carlos alluded to kind of, you know, no knock to his uncle, that it was kind of fabricated there. And a lot of times we take that as being real, being loyal. Now we had to develop the relationship that we genuinely cared about each other to create that space to say, okay, I trust you with this information.
Yeah.
You know, Frankie was very kind in the reality of that space, to be honest. Like that was you know, my man, that was a rough patch. Thank God that he sent him through it.
Yeah.
But he wanted that, you know, that advice, and he was open to it. And I think that's what led us down into your question. Oh, this accountability thing is not a knock to my manhood, not a knock to my pride. Oh, it is something I can learn from it. You know, I don't have this answer on that. And I think that's the relationship better, because now you have real trust instead of loyalty we talked about on Tuesday.
Yeah. You know what? I wanted to talk about something that made accountability jump out for me was when I saw my son. When my son made a choice, I'm like, whoa, no. And I immediately jumped in because I was like, I remember this. I remember what happened. I remember the choices that I made. I remember all those things. And as men, if we don't want to talk about it, let's go ahead and just meet it at the door, like we say, keep it above. I was afraid because when I saw him about to make the mistake, I saw myself. And for a few seconds, I relived all the repercussions of that one action. So a lot of times, but let me just stay right there. So in those actions, it scared me. So hey son, let me talk to you. Let's talk about this before you make this choice or the choice you just made. This is what happened to me. This is what it looks like. I'm not saying, you know, and I began to get a whole breakdown because in my heart, and let's be honest, man, I wanted somebody to say that to me then. There just no one was there. And I said it to my son, and in my heart, I was like, man, I wish I would have had. That's why I'm thankful for Frankie and James, because they have told me, if we want to be honest, man, they've told me, nah, Carlos, you know what, you were wrong with that. And I fuss back, no, what you mean? No. And then after a while, I'm like, Yeah, you're right. You're right. So a lot of times we don't understand that we gotta be careful not to make sure it's not a pride, because when I saw him start the action, it immediately realized accountability made me. He didn't have to go through the whole thing for accountability to kick in for me. I'm like,
Right.
I saw that. You don't have to. Sometimes I think that with accountability, we feel like the person has to have it. No, they ain't got to go through it. You can be accountable by saying, "Hey, let me tell you about this and give it this a possible option." Not saying it's gonna happen to you in the same way.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Matter of fact, me and Ray Sean go way back, and we got some stories, but I appreciate him being there too, because there are times when some people, for the sake of being friends, if they can't tell you, they'll separate from you, because sometimes that's to save you, and we don't see it like that sometimes. So that was just one of my answers.
Yeah. That's
So,
real talk.
And Donna, can I clutch something right quick? Because I think as men, when we hear that word accountability, I want to make sure we're not. But I heard, and I know what Frankie meant, but this popped in my head when he said it. We're not talking about accountability to those society assigned responsibilities of men.
Yes. Right.
I think that's why it's hard to perceive an opportunity to be accountable because we think about, and again, this is not what Frankie was meaning.
Right.
And I'm thinking, hey, Bill, take care of my family. Hey, I treat it good. I pay the bills. It's like, we're talking about those ongoing life skills and social skills that we're still learning. That we could choose to do whatever, but we hone in and say, okay, you know what? This is not for the betterment of myself and or the people around us. This is not good for my mate. This is not good for my child. So I think a lot of men, the reason why we kind of weigh the rest of that out, because we got our kids. I am accountable. I'm accountable to my wife.
Right.
And I hate it's like scratch chalk across chalk. When I don't cheat on her, when I take care of my family, that's not the standard.
Exactly.
Like I want to just kind of open that door up, and fellas, hope we can talk a little bit more about that dynamics amongst us, as Donna go along. But I wanted to set the foundation as men, because a lot of time, especially as good men, hey, I don't cheat on my wife. Hey, man, I pay the bill. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Like that's
right.
That's not, that's not nothing to write home about. So I just want to kind of throw that in there. What I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, because that's what you got on me Tuesday, Di.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
See how I saved you, Frankie?
He wouldn't say.
But Diana was real about it, though.
That ain't what my man meant.
So, but you're right though. Again, when it comes to being accountable, like it's all when it comes to scenarios as that, like a lot of times when scenarios break off, people are like, "Oh, well, I didn't cheat," and it's like, okay, that's the only thing that you can say. You know what I'm saying, to make it better? No, because that's everybody's default. You get what I'm saying? You're like, "Oh, well, I pay the bills." I pay the bills. That's the stance right there. You don't conquer the world because you paid the bills and you don't cheat. So why is your partner ready to run off into the sunset? That's a terrible stance, because guess what? That's where the self-reflection needs to come in at, because you can't just expect yourself to just pay bills and don't cheat and think that that's supposed to be the end all be all. There's so many other things that have to fall under said umbrella, you know what I'm saying, to make it work. And then on top of that too, that's why the whole men holding each other accountable thing is so foreign, because most men in scenarios like that, they will hype you up like, "Yeah, bro, you didn't cheat, man. You paid the bills. You took care of home." What? That's crazy. So because he paid bills and he didn't cheat, he took care of home. Wow, wow.
So Donna, I want to share a personal story where these two men, they made the difference in exactly what you said. My son, about a year or so out of high school, he had got himself in a
pickle,
a pretty tough situation. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
And so my initial, of course, as a father, right? My initial thing, I think we all as parents do, we go through our kind of Rolodex, so to speak, and what could I have done better, and what could I have done? Frank and Carl help me understand. It had nothing to do with my accountability as a father, because that was written. I knew who I was, right?
Right.
I have to look at the situation now and see what my junior need in that moment. Which my boys knew what he needed in that moment, and even through trial and error, I was trying to operate from
like the savior complex.
Yeah, the savior complex is saying no. This is an opportunity for you to teach your son to be accountable, right? Because a lot of time when we talk about where it starts with child rearing and whatnot, if you don't help with that stuff, see, it's good to start there, but I can also tell with a lot of counseling through there, because if not, we'll just end up being a young fool and an old fool.
Yes.
Right. And so from those opportunities, that was my biggest fear, even though I had got the help the whole 9 yards, that savior complex again. Because like I said, I started off having to save who? Myself.
Yeah.
Right. When nobody come to save me, stop that. So it came back. So to your point, it's not just about having guys and yes men. That's why we named it. And so it's having, I don't like using that word real men, but it's having men in the corner that can hold you accountable, not to just the nuances that we do in our toxic masculinity world, even if it's ongoing. Frankie told me one time, you didn't know your son was going to get in this situation.
Right.
You know, you don't have all the facts, but he needs the person who you are now. Until I saw who I was now, I quit. I cut off that survival Superman.
Yes.
I talk about, let me show up right now. This is an opportunity. There's an opportunity to teach another young black man how he needs to be accountable in this situation.
Right.
To not allow this to happen again. You know.
Right. Yeah. So, and you're right in that scenario too. Like, there are so many teaching moments that are misplaced because we just want to hone in and kind of protect, and what I'm saying, not allow the lesson to kind of be learned, because we're ready to like just take over. And then obviously I'm pretty sure you were kind of like blaming yourself too, because you're like, oh, like you said, what could I have done differently to alter certain scenarios? But guess what? You had already given him all the tools that he needed to go out, be great, and make life. Sometimes our kids, they falter, and we want to rush in and try to save the day. And sometimes it could be detrimental, because guess what? The more you save them, the more they're gonna look for you to save them, and then they're never gonna get themselves. So
I'll jump in right now. And also let me say this, because I want to make sure I'm always clarifying, right?
Yeah.
Just because we identify the reasons that hold us back from seeing and being accountable does not give us permission to not to learn.
Exactly.
We still have a responsibility to ourselves. So I want to make sure, to the honest, by no means when I share my story, and that's the hard thing I had to learn about myself. Like, wait a minute, James, because we honest, some of that stuff we like. Some of that dysfunction we learn to live with it and exploit and perverse if we just keeping a buck.
Oh, great.
You know what I mean? But at some point in time, we have to recognize that it's okay to not be okay, to draw ourselves to get the help that we need. We don't get a pass for the rest of our life.
Right.
Well, this is what I went on. Like I said, my daddy eventually turned around and became, when I tell you, a father. Okay, I don't get to hold that banner up, 18, 19, 20, so on and so 30. Now, at some point in time, you have to have a recognition. And that's why it's important. What type of fellows do you have around you?
No, seriously.
Around you, that you all have different variations of toxic masculinity, because it all don't look the same. And that's why I said we got to quit thinking that when women said it's assigned to us, we all have different ways that we've learned how to be a male incorrectly. So if you put all that together as a gumbo, you have a lot of ignorant, not knowing. That's what I mean by ignorant. You have a lot of people not knowing. So you're talking about the issue.
Yes.
Kind of like when we started this podcast, right, fella? We got a lot of knowledge, but eventually we kept hitting that wall like, I don't know that. And I think that's the part where the real true testament of accountability. Hope I'm not getting ahead of myself.
No, you're not. Go ahead.
It's like, hey, even if you don't know, okay, well, what are you doing to learn?
Yeah, I would say too. it's almost like Ray, you know, when he was little, because you have to understand, like, out of all the muscle memory in the world, or you saying it, or like, hey, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that, you still gonna be concerned about your child. So where I equated to Ray, like when he was little, she was gonna go run in, and then she stopped herself. Even in the midst of seeing him struggling and calling out for a name, she still had to stop herself. She had to cover her mouth and let him learn it on his own.
Right.
Like, we're not telling y'all, you know, don't be a parent, don't be concerned, because the natural instinct is, I'm going to be concerned. I am going to blame it on myself. I am going to, like, man, maybe I didn't teach him this. Maybe I didn't teach him that. But we have to remember, we can't sit and dwell in it, because you have to accept it and move forward with it and help him from that point after. And they have to make sure that, hey, this was a mistake made. Let me learn from it and let me move forward and be stronger from it. And that's with anything, even when we do mess up stuff or make mistakes. That's the whole purpose of what we're talking about right now, is that accountability. You know? Yeah.
But I also find it's hard to show anybody, even with your child, you can have the best intentions, just being very transparent. It's hard to teach anybody something that you're not doing yourself.
Right. Yes.
And I think a lot of time with us as men, and some of this is because pressures put up on us, false expectations, but I digress. We only see progression in perfection. So if I'm not doing it perfectly, then there's no need, because guess what? I'm gonna get knocked and torn down. And that's why I say, since we are talking about the fellas, be careful as you, even if you see those areas of opportunity, is it support or is it pressure? Those are two different things, right? And if you're coming into a space where you're just knowing yourself, and look, it's true, you can just know yourself in your teen years, in your earlier. It's not that traditional like if you study psychology, right? Eric and psychosocial theory. Oh, in this level you learn it. No, sometimes you just got to get it how you get it. So even when you get the help, you still have to learn where you are at in that actual space, right? And so that's why I say that support versus that help can be very counterproductive with men who think if it's not perfect, because see, if anything less than perfect, I'm gonna be judged. Even if I do the good part, you're gonna see the bad part. So then we just throw our hands up, because we're not gonna, I know I can't be perfect, so you know what, I'm gonna just pull out of it all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think and we talked about this Tuesday, you know, like I said, my pops, I love my pops, God rest his soul. But, and I got this from him, and I got this from my grandfather, man. He's like, the best people to teach you are people that messed up in life or have been through it. Like, man, my pops, man, look, he was like, man, yeah, you see that dope dealer over there, and you see that crackhead right there. Both of them doing bad things. But which one would you rather be if the circumstances came down to it? You know, no other options, no other outlets but them two. Which one would you rather be? And you know, of course, I'm the drug dealer. You know, because I don't want to look like that. I don't want to be strung out like that, or just like or out on the streets, or always chasing a high. And he was like, see, this is the thing. Nobody's perfect. So even if you were that crackhead, you don't know where that crackhead came from, or you don't know what stresses or stressors or how he became to get hooked on crack. And same thing, if you're gonna be the drug dealer, you can't judge that man, because guess what? His environment is his environment. That's all he knew. Right. That's what he perceived as his destiny, because somebody probably told him, yeah, you ain't gonna be this, you ain't gonna be that. My father told me, man, back when he was coming up, they took aptitude tests, man. And I think me and James talked about this. And it's one of those things back in like back because I want to say like 60s and 50s, man, they flat out told you be a good janitor, you be a good garbage man. So what do you expect these guys to do when they see like pimps back then and drug dealers? Of course, I don't want to be that. And sometimes their father was that and they clash with their parents, you know, and that's still a generational thing because kids are going to clash with their parents because guess what? They felt like, those cats felt like it was, like I could be more than that. But, you know, my dad feel like, you know, hey, this is it. Hey, come on, I'm going to bring you over here. I'm going to show you how to be a good, no, I don't want to be a garbage man. You know, stuff like that. So it's one of those things that, you know, perfect, you're not going to get it. And once you realize that, and if you could have, if you're fortunate enough to have a father like me to tell you like, hey, everything ain't going to be sweet. Everything ain't going to be perfect. You know, I think you'll see stuff a little different or see life a little different. And like I said, if you're fortunate enough to have a father like me, some guys ain't fortunate enough to have that type of conversation or get that in depth when you're that little, you know, with your parents. Because like I said, most parents try to shield instead of let your child see the good and the bad, you know.
Yeah, so thanks for that. That was really dope. Thank you for sharing what your father the examples your father gave you. And again, yeah, don't judge because you don't know what anybody's story is, you know. And I mean, most times if you want to know, you can just ask. But let's read what Rayshawn wrote here. He says, a best friend years ago told me that I always gave her advice and my opinions when they weren't warranted. She told me that sometimes she just wanted a listening ear. I thought because I loved her, I always had the right to give my opinion and advice, but love had tears in my eyes because I knew I was wrong. Some people just want to vent like I may want to do sometimes. Love held me accountable and I changed my ways. Love is important when pride or not wanting to admit wrongdoing. I don't know what the rest of the comment says because it's blocked out or whatever. But it just says if why. Okay. But yeah, you're right. There are times where, you know, people do just want you to, you know, you listen. But guess what? You don't know unless you're actually told that. Or if you 100% really know that person, you can kind of gauge essentially when advice is warranted and when it's not. My favorite thing to do is to always ask the question before we get into, you know, what it is you want to talk about. Do you want my advice or do you just want me to listen? And same if, you know, I want to vent to somebody, I will tell them like, hey, just so you're tracking, I really just want you to listen. I don't want any advice, you know, just kind of hear me out. So those are two ways that, you know, I, you know, work forward when it comes to allowing somebody to or giving somebody the space to vent. So I love that. But what was it? What were you going to say, James?
Yeah, and I also want to say, because I'm sitting here thinking and listening to as we as men speak, and because this is somewhat geared toward the men, right? We definitely want our female counterparts to chime in and kind of give us their lens. But one thing also that came to my space is that a lot of times we do not see when and where to be accountable because there is a fear to differentiate between understanding a problem, but also calling a spade, that's wrong, right? Like because I thought about it, because even when I was sitting here talking to my father, and I noticed on Tuesday, when me and Carlos and Frank, he opened about his uncle, we opened about our father, like there was a preference there, right? Like we had to catch ourselves. And that is something that we're taught, that if we're taught that loyal, right? That loyalty equals love. Well, if I say that about me, that when I want to knock it, well, no, we can say we know that was wrong, exactly. But we also took the time to understand. You don't get to accountability if you can't do that. because you're loyal to don't identify what's right and wrong because of who it is. So you stay loyal. So there's no accountability. So I think that's something that to our men in that audience, and I even call it in ourselves, like it's a hard conversation to have, right? Love my dad, even preference. I think we said it. I love my dad, or I love my uncle. We've been taught, hey, that loyalty right there. No, love don't take no sides.
Blind loyalty.
Right. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't even call it even blind. It's just it's just a bad habit to have that keep us from being accountable. Could you imagine if the three of us were sitting there trying to tell these stories now?
Wow.
And it was all just about the loyalty of who the title of it was.
Yeah, totally different.
Like, well, we wouldn't be able to be accountable, right? You know, and I know Frankie talks about that all the time. Hey, yeah, man, my father told me this and the whole 9 yards, but Frankie, decide to do, right? Yeah, there was a lot of things that, you know, I saw my father, but James, you got to be, that's why I said that first piece of accountability sometimes come from learning what you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
We rush in, well, because I'm a man, I'm supposed to do this. And there's no accountability. It's easy to do what you know you're supposed to do, or at least it should. But what about the thing the world give us permission to do? And we and as men, matter of fact, they say that this makes us a men doing. Now that's where true accountability, in my opinion, comes in.
Yeah. Okay, so Rayshawn said that situation was hard, but love will make you hold yourself accountable. Oftentimes, people don't know what love is, especially biblically.
Biblically.
You can't say cheat. Diana.
Biblically, love chastises and corrects, and of course, it's a way to do so without being disrespectful. Yes, that is so true. People, not everybody has their own definition of love, obviously, even though the Bible has one straightforward definition. Everybody has decided that there's a totally different version that clearly it's not already laid out. But you're also right. You should be able to communicate to a person without, you know what I'm saying?
Interpretation.
Yeah, right. So just, all right. I'm so sorry. I'm still.
No, and to Rayshawn's point, I just want to hit this before we move. Sometimes we even still practice that loyalty and think it's love, right? Frankie and I talk about all the time. Carlos talk about all the time. You know, with him being Omega and I'm being an Alpha, and the different scenarios where you would think, Lord, you got to stand like this. Man, the truth don't take any sides. So sometimes we build our cliques around yes men. That loyalty has nothing to do with what's right and wrong. And so, like Carlos said earlier, okay, yeah, you can show up and give advice, but is it true? You're giving that through the lens of that loyalty because you don't want to really hold your boy accountable. And I think that's the question initially what Diana was saying is, no, you have to be honest with yourself. I think even Rayshawn said that earlier. You got to have a very moral compass within yourself, not perfection. Remember, it's not that all or none, but I think you got to look at your circle and say, hey, man, can you kind of muddy the water, so to speak, so that when the truth's in, even if a person's feelings are hurt, or if truth should never affect a relationship, but if it does, that wasn't good. So that friendship, kind of like Dan was talking about earlier, well, I know you did wrong, so I'm gonna just turn my head. Or can you stand in that and say, hey, man, because I love you, hey, friend, let me have that one with you. You know what I mean? We got to chop that up about that.
Right.
Good talk.
So to that point too about the whole loyalty thing too, because I that's another scenario where I think a lot of enablers are created, right? Where you have people in your circle who are comfortable in the circle because you're making it comfortable for them. I always tell people in order to be comfortable, you have to get uncomfortable. So there are certain boxes that you can put your friend group in because you've all decided that, okay, you know, we're going to all be yes man, and we're going to all say that, you know, none of us can do any wrong. You know, everything that you're doing is correct. Nothing you're doing is wrong. Like, keep at it. And then one day somebody checks, you know what I'm saying, one of y'all, and you're like, whoa, so, you know, my bros told me that, you know, I'm walking the straight and narrow, and the whole time he's doing a squiggly line. But guess who's also doing a squiggly line? You guys are all falling suit together. Yeah. So it gets, so then the setting becomes uncomfortable, and that's where the truth starts to hurt, because it's like, dang, all this time we've all been rocking together, and y'all know, you know what I'm saying, I haven't been walking in the straight and narrow, and you've allowed me to continue on this path knowing that I'm going wrong. Like where is the accountability in that? When you let me, you know what I'm saying, continue to hit this brick wall. My partner's over here telling me you need to go left, but y'all like, nah, bro, stay the course. You're saying you're doing it exactly how you're supposed to be doing it. So that's also a problem in itself too, because you've created this mentality for your whole group to where that you guys are right, and nothing anybody else can tell you will kind of deter your mentality. So where do you go from there? In what ways are you correcting each other in scenarios where you guys are all walking the same path, but somebody has finally told, somebody outside of the group has told one person in the group, hey bro, that ain't the path. So how do we get out of that box?
Misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the deal. And sometimes if the self-reflecting doesn't hit, somebody outside the circle needs to hit. And that's normally what it is, whether it be like a girlfriend, a wife, a good friend outside that circle of close friends. But for the most part, people like seeing
dysfunction,
other people on the same level as them, and not, you know, figure out how to succeed or move forward from what their downfall is. Man, I don't want to get on the conversation, but me and Jay had a good one about this though. You know what I'm saying? Because man, we got a guy, you know, that's kind of in that little deal, but you know, it's been told to him, you know, but sometimes as that one friend, you have to, and sometimes you are going to have to remove yourself from said friend, you know. So it could be one of those type situations too. You have to look and like, I'm not cool with being the way I am now. And if you don't want to take the journey to go with me to change this, then we have to respectfully part ways, and I have to find a whole nother group that's willing to support and encourage me and hold me accountable. Like my favorite Kevin Hart joke, be my no man instead of my yes man.
Yes.
You know, like that, man. It's either, hey, we moving on like this, or we moving like this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. And as y'all can see, Frankie is our peacemaker. But let's go there and ask the question, what do you do? Unfortunately, one of the options can be that person crash out.
Yeah.
And that's why I said in our debriefing, like, I really do think that this is one of those spaces that you can talk about all the nuances, upbringing, things that sort, but God has to play a part. Like, sometimes you don't have that person, right? Sometimes, you know, you are, but it still doesn't take the responsibility.
Right.
You know, there still has to be an ownership. And like I said, I'm not saying take ownership and I'm perfect now or I'm here. I just talked to my son about that. We had a conversation that, Dad, I feel better. I think I'm understanding his emotions. That's good that you're feeling better. But the reality, this is a lifelong journey, right? And for some people, by simply not just identifying what that it is, like Frankie was alluding to, it may be hard to say. It may hurt because who that person is in relationship to you, but it may take a crashing out, because ultimately no one can make you do you better than you. They can want it for you. We talked about it with our children, right? We can want it for you. We can understand it for you. We can try to put this in play. We can recommend, but you want, and I think that's unfortunate. We don't talk about as men. That's probably another conversation. Is that there has to be this nice bow tie ending, and hey, my mate gonna be the one, and I'll see it in my child. Like, no, sometimes, right?
Yeah. Hey, now real.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Hey,
like
everybody expect a happy ending, man. Hey, it always ain't a happy ending.
And that's why you always hear me say, be sure, men and women apart, are you supporting or are you pressuring? Because if I crash out, sometimes like I was talking about with my son, you can want to help so much that you're adding full fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
You put a little bit of your emotion, and I think that's the biggest misconception when it comes to men and women. Mm-hmm. Yes, women, we understand you have your feeling, but when you say you're gonna support, let's just be real. There is some spaces where if it's about the help, can't put your emotion. You have the right to feel. That is a part of it. But you can't mix all those things. They say we all can sing together, but we can't talk together. And that's why you have to make some healthy decisions. Even when our kids, me, Frank, and Carla talk about this all the time. Hey, we love our sons, but there are some things even right now, and you got to go through that, right?
Yeah.
I think we don't talk about that, unfortunate, but it's a real reality that sometimes you got to go through and fall on your face. I've been in a situation with Carlos, had to fall on my face. Mm-hmm. Carlos was still right there, didn't go nowhere, dusted me off when I got back up. But it wasn't about how good of a friend Carlos was. I had to see that myself.
Right.
And vice versa too.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that if anybody just came in while we were discussing what we're discussing right now, we are talking about accountability among men, the dynamics of holding each other accountable. So far, we've done a little small intro on accountability. We've been able to define it. We talked about how important accountability actually is. We talked about the norms and traditional masculine norms when it comes to accountability. And we've also talked about a few forms of accountability, whether it's peer support, like we said, talking about being able to support somebody, give them that safe space to kind of come in and, discuss. We also there was some role modeling going on where, we had to do some self-reflecting, Frankie, to kind of shoot for it. Same thing, James, with your son, that was another form of role modeling. You had to kind of step back and allow, whatever to play out. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about just go ahead and confronting, a person, when they're wrong, which again, Frankie and James, that was your dynamic with your friend who, like you said, at one point we might have to either you're going to come together or we're going to take our different paths. And that's also okay as well. So, and then we also talked about what kind of challenges could come with, holding people accountable, other men accountable. Again, division could happen. You might need to crash out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Say a prayer.
Separate.
Separate. Like there's so many different ways that what I'm saying, scenarios like that can end. The blind loyalty or just loyalty in general. That could also falter certain scenarios, or just being an enabler in general. It's another way. James, you have something?
Yeah, and it was one more that I thought about, and Carlos and I, we had to talk about this, is that you can allow, if you're not careful, you can allow whatever that person should be accountable for themselves affect you in a negative way.
That's
true. We had a partner. Say that again. Oh, my fault.
No, you go. You don't keep going.
I mean, you let PSI go.
Yeah. On the air. That's what we're doing. We pulling stuff in the debrief. Okay. Hey, gloves out. You know what I mean? But no, situation where Carlos was trying to help one of our partners, right? Like on some real brotherly stuff. But Carlos didn't see what that trying to help him be accountable was causing him not to be accountable, because now it's affecting you. Right? And so now you're trying to solve something within yourself. Bro, that ain't yours now. I love it and everything, but ultimately you got to hand that back over there and let him make that decision. You know what I'm saying? Now you creating stuff within self. And so I think sometimes with men, especially with our ability to be problem solver, we may think that's being a man. Yeah, I'm supposed to take that from my boy. No. Those emotional dealings have to be left over there, because the reality is he should want that help to make sure he put you in that compromised situation.
Yeah.
Got something going. So I think that's something we as men have to be careful, like especially our close boys and our friends, our friend brethren. We think that that's a part of the territory. We supposed to do. That's my boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, let's go there though. You know, and like I said Tuesday, I found an article, and I ended up not posting it to the group, but I read it anyway. But I mean, it's like the deal, like Bill Cosby or you know, or we could go recent the Anthony Edwards situation about the giving over all his custody and rights of his daughter to the baby mama. You know what I'm saying? These are things, you know, like where accountability gets screwed, where the word of it gets screwed. Gets screwed. You know what I'm saying? So Bill did what he did, but you know, you still got your conspiracy theorists and people like that. Hell, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I was one of them, still am one of them, you know. But we still have to hold Bill accountable for his actions that he did. You know what I'm saying? But and I think that's why this conversation came to be.
Right.
And like Jay always says, it's that loyalty. Is it really love, or is it just what it is, loyalty? You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Anthony Edwards. Like, I'm pretty sure there have been multiple talks going on about that. Like, man, like how can he give over? Like, bro, that's still your child. You know, someday she gonna come back and look at this and be like, hey, man, why you didn't want me type situation. But we still don't know the dynamics between them two.
Right.
You know, whether if he's still gonna be able to see her. We just see what we see from face value. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's a good point, Frankie, because when you look at accountability, you got to understand that he was being accountable probably for a portion of it or a certain aspect of it. And that's the danger about accountability, like James just stated, knowing what you're accountable for. And even if it's something that's you're also to be accountable for. We really got to pay attention to that. Sometimes when dealing with people, because when James made that comment, that one ran deep. Because you're right, this was a close homeboy.
Yeah.
And it was so close that, matter of fact, the situation was going through, I felt. And I thank God that James knew what felt it enough within him that, no, man, I'm gonna tell you about this. I just can't sit and watch this. You know, I'm not gonna let this get there. And I'm glad that he did, because he came in and caught me before it became something that was so detrimental that I probably would have to suffer the repercussions from. So as men, sometimes we have to understand that, you know what? Yeah, when you become accountable, it's gonna sting a little bit. It's gonna hurt a little bit. Your pride might get hit, whatever case may be, but that sacrifice,
you got it.
Repercussions.
You gotta know when enough is enough, and you gotta hurry up and get off the train before it run off the track.
And also, we as men, accountability don't kick in when we feel something. All right. So when Frankie was going through his situation, or Carlo going through him, and we're talking about in the context of being bored, it ain't the fact just because I knew they were going through something and I felt it some type of way. Usually for true accountability, you have to have a desire for what's right.
Yeah.
I post something like that on social media. Emotions aren't facts.
That's right.
So you look in the dynamic, and this is probably another topic for another day. You look at the example of a woman who typically more in contact with her emotions. Men, we have them, but we don't articulate them. But then we on the importance of accountability through emotion. It's a train wreck, right? Hey, I feel this type of way. No, it got to be some truth in there, and I think that's another thing with we as men that can't come based on who it is.
Yeah.
No, when I'm talking about my daddy, well, that's my daddy. You know, that's different. Now, when I'm talking about Carl, well, that's just now. Truth don't take no sides, right? And so I think that's something, you know, for men who are looking at where are these places of accountability, right? It can't just be just in the emotion of it, right? Because we do have an affinity. It's a loyalty to Frank is my Masonic brother. That's a loyalty there. Carl is my big brother. That is a loyalty. So we don't take that away. But one thing that all of them should have in common, truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth.
So if they do something wrong or they step outside of what we're supposed to stand for, if the truth is the truth, it's not just a feeling of how it makes me feel, but because that's the truth, and I say I love him. Hey, Frank, I need to have my one. Hey, Carl, let me talk to you right quick.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, you gotta hit him. You gotta. Hey, you messed up, hey, Ron.
Yeah.
No, facts.
Well, yeah. So, I think this was a pretty dope topic to talk about, and I'm greatly thankful for you all to, you know, kind of give some background on your stories and how what accountability looks like for you, what it has been like for you, and kind of where it has you at now. I want to, you know, kind of close it out with I believe ways that you believe you encourage accountability to your other male counterparts. Like, in what ways do you encourage that? Do you guys feel like you're creating spaces, you know what I'm saying, for that? Are you modeling the vulnerability, like, you know, in tune with your emotions, kind of expressing what that looks like? Do you create a space where the dialogue is just open enough to where that, you know, if one of your male counterparts were having a certain scenario, are you giving him, you know, that space to come forward to talk about it, and then I guess gather ways forward for them to get through it? And I know, Carlos, you said you had something, so what's up?
Because James and even with Frank, we've done this before, but we have a thing where when you're either going through something or you mention something or we notice something, and we believe in God, we're spiritual, we pray about it. We don't give the opportunity for the atmosphere to check. No, that's an issue. Let's talk about it. Let's go there right now. Because a lot of times we'll talk ourselves out of it, or we'll change your mind by the time to get there. Well, that environment gives me the opportunity to say something, and then they respond to it then. And since it's out there, being my brothers, now I'm gonna take this. You know, you can't take this back. Let's meet there right there. And in all actuality, if we have realized most of the things I actually had mentioned right out there, they were not that serious, but they were just in my mind serious. So we have a thing that we reach it when it's come. Hey, let's pull together right now. Let's pull together right now, and it's still going on. Matter of fact, it's wonderful because at the church me and James attend, that's a big thing now. I got men come to me. Let's pray right now, or let's talk about this right now. I'm like, okay. You know, or I want to talk to you right now. So the environment was open, and now they're walking into it saying, hey, look, I'm not going to hold this, you know,
right.
And they go right into it. So that's one of the biggest benefits now I want to jump out with, because men need a safe space, but you also got to be willing to go into that safe place or allow that safe place to come to you.
Yeah.
And if I could,
you're right about that.
If I could put my life coach hat on, like, but continue to become a better person yourself.
Yeah.
See, even when there are times we may do something and do it right, if we don't know it, like, that's just luck, right? Like that's like, you know, the old school hit on the motor and the car just crank up. Well, he didn't fix the motor, right? It's just so a broken clock is right 2 times a day, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of time with men, we show up in our environments already knowing, got all the answers, and no one's weak.
Right.
Everyone's okay. Everyone got all the answers. Everyone got all the topics and speaks and whatnot. But when you go back to your closet, are you a good person? I think Diana, you posted about that. Are you a good person just because you said enough?
Yeah. Right.
Or you really be honest and look at your life, know your strengths and weaknesses, and see where there are places where you are learning, you are growing, right? Before you can worry about the neighbor's yard, homeboy, and whatnot, and you put these clicks and all this together. And that's not saying everybody's gonna be perfect, and that's not saying everybody who's not working on themselves is a bad person. But I think the best thing you can do in instilling that accountability within your circle is make sure you are truthful and transparent with yourself. And you're not just putting yourself a badge on. And like Carlos alluded to, okay, you show up in one day and maybe your partner need it, and you just, you know what I mean? You're just saying a bunch of stuff that sounds good that really just stroking your ego. And if it so work, okay, you cool, Carlos, what you said, no, go get real help on this stuff. Be honest with yourself. Yeah. Like I said before, a lot of this stuff is not, you don't have to pay. It's just a matter of you just opening up space within your time. And like I said, not being a good person, right? I would be a better person.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yep, I would say, man. Oh yeah, I would say positive affirmations. My bad, Diane. Positive affirmations, man. How I do things, man. Like I send people like certain particular songs that I know will relate to the problem or the feeling that they're going through, and like even sometimes, like I sent one of my coworkers this because I just seen him. I said, man, I don't know what you're going through, man, but listen to this, bro. And when you listen to this, man, I'm telling you, it's gonna feel like, yeah, he talking about what I'm talking about, or he feel like I feel. You know what I'm saying? And follow up. You always got to follow up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Be firm. Be firm when you're the no man. You know, so everything you hear, you can't just keep nodding your head. You got if y'all boy, you be like, man, that's you know, hey, nah, that's dumb, man. You know what I'm saying? You be real. You know, be real to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So,
and fellas, but we also got to Frank's point, we got to lose this toxic masculinity that those environments. Let's be real. What I said, we usually associate them with women areas.
Oh yeah,
we don't welcome them, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Well, I'm gonna say my word. Keep it a buck. We've used this in some of our circles, right? I'm gonna that's my girl.
Yeah.
Right then and there. You know what I'm saying?
Life situation.
The healthy environment.
Any situation you see them struggling through or finna make a poor decision or already made a poor decision.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. Get them back on the right track. That's where the follow-up comes in. Hey, it didn't already happen. Get them back on the right track. If that's your partner, get them back on the right track, man. Get up. Go do something. Shout out to my boy Robert Strong, because when I was going through it, man, he came, got me up off the couch, and man, I just started helping him cut grass until I ended up doing the club stuff. And then I got back rolling, got back working. You know what I'm saying? So that's what a good friend does. You know what I'm saying?
And see, that's support. Remember, support, not pressure. And I think that goes more towards, sometimes it can happen male on male, but I think also from that counterpoint, that significant other.
Yeah.
That's why I say being in a relationship is a real job.
Yeah.
If you are applying pressure to a space where a man is already feeling pressure, I am telling you, this ain't no justification, but it's true.
Yeah.
You're doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
Because now there has been created another thing that he has to deal with, like the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's gonna do one or two things. He's gonna show it away in effort, which is wrong, but then he's gonna treat the solution to you like the problem. No, you're supposed to be regardless, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not supposed to be treated like the problem. And that's why a lot of female, well, you don't hear me, you don't understand me. If I just lost my job, I'm worrying about the bill. We got little kids in there, and I'm worrying about your car. I'm not Superman. I cannot deal with that in that moment, right?
Right.
That's why I always talk about it's quick to just get up and grab the things and run, do, man, hey, can we work it out? It is a real big difference between support and an actual pressure.
Yeah.
Even if that's something that, let's just say something I did to do that job. I'm gonna be kind of like Frankie said, okay, yeah, I did that. You know what I mean? but my mind and my emotions have to be clear.
Yeah.
Like Frank said in his story, this train got to keep rolling, right?
Yeah.
And if you got an hourglass where because it don't keep rolling when you're ready, and then you get in your head, now you start worrying, and that's not. I guarantee you that's not gonna help. You can be saying the right thing the wrong way, and you created a whole nother problem.
Yep.
Wow. Like, I'm pretty sure we could go on for hours with
It usually happen like that, right?
with accountability. But I'm gonna end it with this. So holding each other accountable is a vital aspect of male relationships that can lead to personal growth and positive societal change. By fostering environments of support, openness, and honest communication, men can work together to navigate accountability effectively. I encourage all men to engage in conversations about accountability within your social circles. By practicing accountability, you can strengthen your relationships and contribute to a more supportive and responsible community. And on that note, I'm going to end it. Thank you all for coming out tonight, tuning in with us. Everybody that commented, please make sure you like, share, subscribe to our IG, to our Facebook. We're also on Spotify and YouTube. That's Unfiltered Kings Podcast.
Amazon Music.
We're out. Love you all.
Peace.